designated Adamsburg, but too clear by indicates, but too clear. Well, it's something wrong. Thereabouts lies the island Ramakot, where there is a rich and famed pagoda under the Tanava. Under the Tanava. You heard the word Tanava earlier. And the high priest of that temple was called Tanava, who has also a defense there, where in sight and close to the mainland. In good monsoon, one can navigate with some light crafts. So the gentleman who was in charge of Ramakovil or Rameswaram was called Tanava, and he was the one who is to burden the ships on one side of the channel, take the ship across, the light ship across, and reintroduce the goods that were brought overland to the ship on the other side. I'm skipping these. In the same way, Pambam, though a shallower waterway, was also used by the international ships after unloading their goods before crossing. It was for this reason that the Dutch encroached on the channel as well and attempted to build a fort as at Manau. John Fraser's map of 1862 also shows the two waterways whereon is described as the Straits of Manau Channel and the other called the Pambam Passage. The Maldivian chart of the same year shows the two waterways. However, the transport map of Ceylon of 1895, showing the steam route round the island, indicates a course via the Pambam Passage and not the Manau Channel, as by then the watercourse between Manau Island and the mainland had been constructed. This, no doubt, marked the end of this historic waterway. Let's skip that. And there you see in the sketch the Pambam Passage and Rameswaram Kovil in the island here. Then Adams Bridge, Danishkodi here, and Talamana here, and Manau Island and the Manau Passage or the Seaway. The Pearl Banks being here, and lower down Aripu and so on. And that was the division between India and Sri Lanka. And here was the contested island of Karativ. Distance and time between Rome, Manthota and Peking. We have adopted the time schedules of shipping as recorded by Wilmington to indicate the time and distance between the port of Rome and that of Manthota. As a second journey, we have attempted to link the port of Peking with that of Manthota, developing from the records maintained by Ma Huan, who kept the records during the voyage of Shenhou. These sailings have to be considered in the light of Roman travel, covering the turn of this era and with reference to the Chinese journey of Shenhou, which was basically the 14th century, was basically a 14th century effort. And here are some of the distances, the port of Rome, and then Sri Lanka at the bottom. These are the miles, but if you look at the days, to me the days are important. This is from, again, Ostia Antica, which is the port of Rome, and then by Coptus, by canal to the north of the Red Sea. And then from there, it is 70 days. Under 3 months, because every 3 months the monsoon winds change. So within 70 days they had to reach Mantai, barter their goods at Mantai with the Chinese ships that have come to Mantai and return home to their wives and families. And see the same distance from the China Seas. You can see it goes up to 73 days. 73 days, again under 90 days, during which period they had to barter their goods, take the goods of the opposite cargo, opposite region, and then return to their homes. Foreign contacts with Sri Lanka. A variety of foreign contacts with Sri Lanka is contained in the records that can be summarized under navigation, trading, religion, political, and documentary. And finally, the development of navigation between West and East Asia, undertaken by the advancing Perso-Arabians on the one hand and the Indo-Malaysians and the Chinese on the other, made it possible for the mariners to take a still more direct course from Ceylon to Malacca or Java, and so to the ports of Tonkin and South China. From this, we may perhaps infer that during the 6th century, the latter island, Sri Lanka, was in intimate relations with Ethiopia and nothing as a halfway station between Southeast and Southwest Asia. The outward crossing of the Indian Ocean between Ceylon and the Gulf of Aden was perhaps more direct than that from the same island to the Gulf of Oman. A 7th century AD Chinese record in the 3rd year of Teng refers to Sri Lanka as follows, and I quote, Ceylon is situated in the middle of the southwest seas. Its length from north to south exceeds 2,000 li. It is there that the mountain Lanka is found. It abounds in treasures. The treasures, the people of the country spread out on the surface of the island. The merchants come in boats and after paying directly the equivalent sum, take them away. Unquote. I skip. Now we look at an aerial photograph of the present remains of Mantai. You can see this is a double-moated port, a double-moated city, a double moat, and this is Tirukeswaram temple now, and the sea beyond. The sea line is there, but tide can bring it further, but the port was probably around here. Then this was the freshwater supply of a tank. I give you a sketch of that. That's the same thing I sketched out, the double-moated city, Tirukeswaram temple, and then it was here that Mr. Hokart was excavating with his so-called railway line that was to take the debris and away from the excavation pits. And that's the freshwater tank. A part of Mantai irrigation scheme as sketched by Geraldin's father, Dr. Prohia. The 6th century Greek writer Cosmas Indecupleustus, writing about trade in Sri Lanka, stresses the central and important position that the island was held as an emporium. There were two kings, and I quote here, there were two kings ruling at opposite ends of the island, one of whom possessed the Hyacinth and the other the district in which are the port and emporium. For the emporium in that place is the greatest in those parts. I repeat that. The port and emporium. For the emporium in that place is the greatest in these parts. And that's why that term is used once and only once in Cosmos, Indecupleustus texts. And that's why I give the interpretation that this was the port of return. Port of return where the goods were brought from the Mediterranean, exchanged with the goods brought from China, and the ships returned home. The island is the resort of ships from all parts of India, Persia and Ethiopia. And in like manner, many are dispatched from it, from the inner countries, I know China and other emporium. It receives silk, alcohol, cloves, clove wood, chandan and whatever else they produce. Wilmington gives a full account of the amount of material that went from the east to the Roman Empire. It counts about 28 items, of which 27 items were found in Sri Lanka. And they even adduce the collapse of the Roman Empire in the 4th century to the drain of gold from that empire to the east. There is again transmits to other ports. I mean to Mali, where the pepper comes, to Chalina, where there is brass and sesame wood, and materials for dress, for it is also a place of great trade, and to Sidon, where they get musk, custard, and androticum. To Persia, the Hermite coast, and Adula, receiving in return the exports of these emporiums. Taprobane exchanges them in the inner port to the east of Cape Comorin, sending her own produce along with them to each. Silva or Taprobane lies seawards, about 5 days sailing from the mainland. Then further on, the continent is Marola, which furnishes Huela. Then comes Kabir, which exports Albandum, and next is the Clove country, then China, which exports silk, beyond which there is no other land, for the ocean encircling it on the east. Seriba, Sri Lanka, being thus placed in the middle, I underline the word middle, as it were of India, and possessing the hyacinth, receives goods from all nations and again distributes them. There you are. Bata distributes them, thus becoming the great emporium, and mentioned once and only once in his text as the great emporium. These are some of the goods. These are all Middle Eastern goods. I've seen many of them in the Middle East, these pots. There you are. These are marbles which were found in Anuradhapura, all Amaravati marbles. These are ceramics, glazed ceramics. These are ivories, all found at Anuradhapura in the Jetavana project. These are intaglios carved on crystal. These are Chinese ceramics, beautifully glazed. These are more ceramics. These are again crystal